No mai, haere mai, e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny. Erin is in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. Quite a few games to discuss today. Let us start with the Next Men on Saturday. That was at home versus Western Sydney Wanderers. Now, they beat us 4-1 last time we played them. Danny and I were there for that. This time, 2-2. Corbin Piper and Chico with goals for Western Sydney Wanderers. Goals BK, of course, although he didn't celebrate. Milanovic, very late. This was an interesting one because we had no Rufa, we have no LB, we had no Husey, we had no Wooten. So the back line was basically Piper, Sheridan, Payne, and Sutts. So it was really interesting. But I think that we played really well. I thought that was one of the most fun games to watch for this team this season. Any thoughts?
Look, when the team list came out, and I think it came out a couple of hours before kickoff, and I think everyone spent 2 hours trying to work out what formation we're going to play, who's going to play where. It could have gone all sorts of different ways. I've never been so keen to see them actually get out on the pitch and line up and go, okay, so so Payne's at centre back, Piper's at right back. Could have been the other way around. Lucas Kelly-Heald is at right midfield. Okay, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, look, it seemed to work to an extent. In terms of attacking, we seem to be just more fluid than we've been for a long time, since we started being crap, basically. And yeah, as you say, entertaining-wise, yeah, it was a fun game to watch. I thought we played pretty well. We defended okay. They're a decent side, a very good attacking side. The fact that, okay, they scored 2 goals, but we also scored 2, and that's more than we scored for a long time. So really quite enjoyed it. Don't know what that says for us for the rest of the season. If we can keep playing like that, then maybe we'll get a point here or there, but at least we'll be entertained. Bargaining. It makes me more prepared to watch. Not that I always watch the games anyway, but we've been approaching them with like, okay, I've got to sit for another 90 minutes of dross, and now it's like, well, maybe I'll see something I'll enjoy. There was a lot of things to like about that performance, not least it was a patched team and they all defended pretty well, but a Corbin Piper scoring a Corbin Piper goal, LBS was just superb. I thought for a 16-year-old, he's 16, he was just excellent. His best game for us so far, and makes you really positive about his future. I thought Nagasawa probably had his best game for us, and Chico is just fun to watch, basically. So good game. It was a shame we couldn't hold on, but I think we were pretty gassed by the end of it, and considering how young that side was and how patched up, I wasn't too surprised as they got an equaliser. It's a shame, but I'm not too pissed off about that, because overall it was a good performance. And it means we've got 5 more games and maybe we'll have a bit of fun with it. Okay, we know the season's over in terms of actually winning anything, but, at least makes me think, well, let's tune into the games and, we'll see what fun we can have watching it.
It was a bit of a shock because we just had an international break and we suddenly had 2-3 more injuries out of nowhere. So I don't know what is happening if they're just, being run to the ground as getting, too many minutes and they're just breaking near the end of the season. But we've just had such poor luck this season with our injuries, and we got to a point where we're like, oh, it can't get worse from here, and then it did, and it continued to. So I think getting a point from this game is pretty good, looking at the lineup that we had. It was kind of good to see Ashige get some good game time. He's our top assister of the season. I just feel like we play better with him and we create more chances with him on the field, and the fact that he hasn't really been playing recently has been a bit of an interesting choice. And yeah, he puts that corner and basically on a platter for Corbin Piper to head that in. And also we got his shirts off. It's been a while since they've had his shirts off at 80 minutes. Shirts went back on, but obviously it's been a while since I think we've seen that, so it's kind of nice to get something out of the game. Unfortunately the crowd wasn't huge. I think there was a lot going on in Wellington that weekend, and the crowd wasn't massive, but I'm glad that those who who went got to have their shirts off moment. But yeah, it's a point, which is good. It's been a while since I think we've really kind of come away from a game and said, hey, that was actually kind of good to watch. We actually had some goals, we had some chances, we were doing some fun things, which is great. We got a Corbin Piper badge tap when he scored a goal, which means that, you know, he's still proud to kind of play for the team. But yeah, it's looking up, I think. You know, of course, we're going to have Crave score a goal against us. It's always the way that it goes. And, you know, conceding late's a bit of a heartbreaker, but hey, we didn't lose.
I think Krayev scoring was always going to happen. We know that. But I don't know, am I the only one that I wouldn't have cared if he celebrated? I mean, as long as he didn't take the piss and go over the yellow fever and, you know, pull his pants down. I mean, he's a professional footballer. He scored a goal. It's a good goal. I don't care if he celebrates. That's what he's paid to do. I thought it was a little bit, I don't know, a little bit contrived. I feel it's unfair to players to, you know, they're doing what they've got to do. There's a big release, you know, you expect them to celebrate it, and now he's not allowed to do that. I thought that was a little bit harsh. You know, I don't think he's done anything wrong in going to another team, probably for a fair bit more money. And if he scores, he scores. Again, as long as he doesn't overdo it, I wouldn't have any problem with him celebrating.
I mean, I feel like most people wouldn't have had a problem had he kept it muted, unlike some players who go all out and just to antagonise. I thought it was a little bit classy. I'm not suggesting he should do that for the rest of the time, like whenever he scores against us for the rest of his potential A-League men career. But I think that people sort of appreciated a little bit, just a little bit of a show of respect, because, I mean, everybody knows we tried really hard to hold on to him and we couldn't, presumably mostly for financial reasons. So some people thought it brought out that whole like utter woke nonsense, whoever that guy is standing with the green brick background that's been a meme for several months now. I thought one of my highlights, and actually Stajic liked this happening, which was surprising because I would have thought Stajic would complain about it, but Sapsford's running into the box like next to Tim Payne and he just goes down. Now he doesn't appeal, like get up and appeal for the penalty and run to the ref, like waving his arms. But it's clearly a dive. And Timmy Payne gives him an absolute spray over it. What are your thoughts, especially considering he didn't openly appeal to the penalty, but that actually doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You don't have to be appealing for the foul for it to be a dive and to get in trouble for it.
I mean, it's a dive. It's a blatant dive. And even if you're not appealing for anything, because he knows that it was a terrible dive in the first place, he still did the dive. And you're going to hear about it if you're going to be flop. I think he's done a few other flops in the game as well. And so I think that one probably just was the straw that broke the Payne's back, and he just let it go at him. And I loved Tim Payne for that. I think that you always see him yelling. He's always yelling at someone, whether it's his own teammate, whether it's, you know, I don't know, he'd probably yell at the ball if it was anywhere near him. And so I love it. It's the passion that you kind of need, especially if you have a young team like that. It's obviously someone who stepped up and is just kind of taking on the responsibility of just controlling the game and being the leader. And I think that's great. We kind of need that passion, a bit of fieriness to keep us in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. You love to see it, and Stajic obviously appreciates that in the player as well. I think he said, "Yeah, he's a winner. That's why he does that, and I want my players to do that as well." So, which was good, because some coaches would automatically defend their player, whatever, and I think there was no place for defending that. I mean, it was a dive. It wasn't really blatant, but if he was going down, he certainly made a lot of it. And I think he was probably a bit embarrassed once Tim had pointed out that maybe he didn't have to go down in such a floppy way. But yeah, for Tim Payne to do that is great. And I thought he had a good game, central defence, and he hasn't had a good game for a long time. I think he's been he was out for a while with injury, but I think it was about 3 games before that he wasn't really up to it. And since he's been back, he hasn't really been that good either. This seemed to be him coming back into form, whether that's because he was in central defence, didn't have to run as far, maybe just the responsibility picked up, or maybe he's just got a bit better, got a bit fitter. But yeah, it was great to see. And, you know, he's sort of the player that I think Corbin Piper possibly could be. You know, I don't think Corbin Piper's never going to be a Marco Rojas. He's never going to be that good technically. but he's got that sort of will to win and aggression and physicality that Tim Payne has. And if I was him, I guess I'd be looking at Tim Payne as someone, okay, if I want a career in professional football, this is the kind of person I could be. If I try hard, and I don't think it's good as Tim Payne, but, potentially that's the kind of player he could be. I would be interested to see, of those players that were injured, your Whartons and your Retros and your Roofers, etc., how many of them come back in next week, considering how well we played?
I think we were excellent, and we got to kind of play all the players that were missing out, like getting Nagasawa to start and Ishige to start. Like that was really good, and I think that Payne and Sheridan had a really good game as a centre back pairing. I don't think I've ever seen Timmy Payne play at centre back, but I thought he was great. I thought we really just put a lot of grit and determination up there. And I think we were a little bit unlucky to concede that 89th minute goal. That was quite heartbreaking because it would have been fantastic for that to be a win. That would have been a really good boost to morale.
It's also the second game in a row where we've not passed it out from the back. We're playing it long, and we just seem to be better. We're competing for the ball, but just higher up in the pitch. Whether we win it or not is not the matter. We weren't against Sydney. We were consistently going up the left towards Luke Kelly-Heald. This time we weren't. We were just putting it up there and seeing where it came out, and we actually won the ball quite a lot. Luke Brooks-Smith won it just with his persistence and tenacity quite a few times, and then playing after Luke Kelly-Heald, who had an excellent game. He was very. Again, talking about who might come in, I think I would take Luke Kelleher in midfield before I take Retro back, which would be a ridiculous thing to say at the start of the season. But I thought he played really well. He was pretty knackered at the end. I don't think he managed to go the full 90 minutes. But other than that, he won the ball. He gave the ball off, easy passes here and there, nothing too flash. Just sort of what you wanted in midfield. I thought he had an excellent game. And I would happily have him in midfield for the next game.
It's almost like the pressure's off for them. The now or never make the finals. Now that that's off, they've kind of just relaxed a little bit and just started kind of playing a bit more football and making something out of it, which it's kind of a shame that it's, kind of coming in now when it should have come in weeks ago. But, the freedom now to just almost kind of do what they want, and I guess with the squad where they're putting up a bit of a random lineup, it's kind of like, okay, just go out there and do something, make it work, deal with what we have, and I think that they did deal quite nicely.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy to see a performance like that again next week. Let's talk about the really big news today, other than the fact that Knicks fans rightfully are unhappy about AI slop being posted on the social media accounts of the club. Marco Rojas has mutually terminated his contract. We've really only got a few rounds to go. He has spent a lot of time on the bench or just straight up injured, and I imagine he's probably on some of the bigger money, probably not as much as I imagine Chico was on more, but I imagine he's on very good money, and saving that for the rest of the season makes business sense. However, it does look a bit like a shit show, the fact that we've signed this bloke and he's incredibly talented when he's fit, but we signed him. Chiefy said he wants to build his attack around him. Then he's just been bloody injured this whole time, just constantly injured. Just on the bench, he's played like 20 minutes of football, it feels like, and they were great. That was great football, but it makes us look like a bit of a shambles, even though business-wise, I think it kind of makes sense to save the salary money.
So we don't actually have any information on this other than it's been mutually terminated. So the idea that we're saving money on it, I don't really see why we would be. He's got a contract. We have to pay, the Phoenix have to pay him that contract unless he decides to walk away. You can't just say, okay, we're not going to pay you anymore, Marco. You're not allowed to do that. That's just basic employment law. So if it's been mutually terminated, and it actually is mutually terminated, that means that Marco's agreed to walk away. Now, he may have said, look, injuries are too much. I really can't be asked for this anymore. I'll tell you what, pay me for 2 months and I'll waive the last month, in which case we may save some money. I don't see what anybody's getting out of this, because there's no way the club can go to him and say, we don't want to pay you anymore. Can you bugger off? He'd just say, no, you've got to pay me until June. So I think he's got to have something in mind that he wants to do to walk away, and has gone to the club and said, okay, let's agree something, pay me half wages, or I want to walk away now. I have no idea what his financial position is that he can afford to do that. But for the club to save money, it's got to be his idea to walk away, which means he's got something else in mind. Now, there's no other leagues really that are starting or have a transfer window. So I can't even see how he's going to another club. So maybe he's got something else in mind. I genuinely don't know. We have no information on this whatsoever. The other option is there's been a big bust up behind the scenes for whatever reason. And again, we have no information on that. And I don't know what that is. And we could have said, okay, we want you to get away from the club and we'll pay you out and we'll say it's a mutual termination, but because there's no lead up to that at all. As far as I'm aware, Marco's a consummate professional, does all the media, etc., etc. Everyone seems to like him, so I'm a bit confused about it. The only thing that I can think that makes sense is that he's got something that he wants to do, whether in this country or somewhere else. But I can't imagine that that's playing football. Bit weird. It's a shame, but he probably wasn't going to play much anyway. So I don't think it's going to affect us too much. He probably wasn't going to play next season. I doubt we would have signed him again for next season, unless it's on very small money because of his injury issues. So I don't think it's really going to affect the playing side of the club at all. But yeah, I'm a bit confused about why this happened now with such a short 5 games to go before the end of his contract.
Yeah, it was just kind of random, especially because he was on the bench the last game. So he must have been fit enough to get some minutes in his legs. And the fact that out of the blue they kind of just dropped that he's leaving, and then dropped some random AI art to try to cover it up. But yeah, it is kind of random. And yeah, like what Danny was saying, if we don't know anything about the contract and whether we have to pay him out or any of that kind of stuff, I was kind of hoping it kind of frees up something to try to get Chico on a full-time deal. But who knows what's happening? It's the 4th or 5th player we've released this season on a mutual termination, which is when we're stuck with basically an injury crisis all season, and we're just letting people go, and we're not even playing players, and we're just letting them go and just keeping the same people on the bench. And yeah, it's a bit odd. Don't really know what's happening behind the scenes, but it's just been a bit of a strange season for that kind of thing.
I guess we'll see what shakes out. It is what it is. It's done. Let's talk about the next match coming up. That is Sunday, 5 p.m. local, 7 p.m. New Zealand time at McDonald Jones Stadium versus Newcastle Jets. The little corner of yellow will be there. Come join us in the away bay if you're able to attend. I personally can't go, but Danny will be there. Danny, how are you feeling about this match? I think there's no reason why we can't continue to try and get results. Nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, look, I mean, who knows? Who knows they're going to turn up? We've had good performances in the last 2 matches. If we play like we did against Western Sydney, we're certainly capable of beating Newcastle. They're not a great side, but they do have a couple of good young attackers, so they can score goals. I really have no idea what's going to happen because I don't know who's going to play. But if we have the same sort of go forward mentality that we had against Western Sydney Wanderers, then yeah, absolutely we can score goals. It could be a really fun match. It could be pretty high scoring. The teams are probably fairly even. We're not up against a team that's obviously better than us, which we were against Western Sydney and maybe against Sydney the week before. So yeah, anything can happen. It's great. I'm really looking forward to it now as a match, and I'm optimistic. Chico, if he can keep on the same form and link up with Barbarouses, then we'll probably score goals. And if not, we'll just watch the back heels and love those.
The Jets are a funny little team. They went on, I think, a 7-game unbeaten streak out of nowhere, which is kind of crazy. And then they got thumped 6-2 by Western United. And so hopefully we kind of come against that Jets rather than the unbeaten one. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun game. Regardless, we're just kind of playing for the sake of playing now, and hopefully we can get something good, and we get a few more back heels from Chico.
All right, let us chat about the women who did have a little bit more to play for yesterday, despite the not very high chance of being able to make finals. I think it's basically done now. We played City, who are unbeaten this season. I really hope that someone beats them, but they've got some very easy games coming up. We did not manage to spoil the Snake Mire party. 1 goal to Holly McNamara in the 35th minute. I think we've stepped a little bit too far off her, and she's just put it in the back of the net from that cross. Perhaps the best part of the whole game, and we did have a decent number of chances. I think we did play well. Lara Wall played really well. She was our player of the match. 48th minute, speaking of Lara Wall being our player of the match, she did. If we had a VAR system for the dub, I have a sneaking suspicion she might have been sent off for a high boot that kicks and cuts McNamara's face. It is a penalty. It is a shit penalty. But Caroline Filau, save. Massive save. So good. So, yeah, there were some changes. It was interesting that they played Jale as like a deep centre mid. So not quite a defensive centre mid, maybe more like an 8. And they pushed Flea to like the attacking central mid, which made no room for Alyssa Winham, which I think is why she was benched. I think we actually played with no fear. I was really happy about the fact that we seemed to play with absolutely no fear, despite the fact that they were the league leaders, unbeaten. For the first half, our XG was 1.22 and theirs was 0.25. We played great. It's just frustrating that we never managed to get back into it.
Yeah, it was a really good performance, and as you say, we came out and played really well in the first half. I think they obviously knew it was, we have to win this to keep our season alive, and so they went for it, even though it was against Melbourne City. Flea was looking good up front. I think that switch to 10 helped us, and defensively we looked pretty solid. But unfortunately, again, we just can't score goals, and that's that's the story of the season. We've been all matches. We definitely matched them, at least in the first half. Probably outplayed them in a lot of places. We had plenty of forward play. We had a few chances, but we just couldn't need to, and that's just disappointing. Because apart from that, as I say, good performance by pretty much everyone. Played really well. Jale's midfield played well. She still frustrates me. It was not her fault because the way she was playing today, but she's so talented and shows it not enough times in terms of going forward, because I think she should really be the person that sets up most of our goals, but she played quite well in that defensive area because she's just so strong. I thought Elliott played quite well. I thought Main played quite well. Wall was excellent, left back. Her duel with Bosch was really fun to watch. Bosch is a really good player, great player to see, and she kept it quiet most of the time, not all the time, but she played really well. And I think if someone's watching from outside the league and looking at the Phoenix players, watching Lara Wall's performance in that game today, they'll be like, okay, this girl can possibly step up and play at a high level. So disappointing we lost. Not surprising we lost. It's Melbourne City. No one beats Melbourne City, apparently. But, bearing in mind we needed to win to keep our season alive, realistically, it was a shame that we couldn't just force it over the line. And there were a couple of moments where it was a matter of trying to force it over the line. Didn't manage it. Vilau did well again, saved the penalty, which was no way a penalty. Another really, really bad decision, I thought, by the referee there. There was, at best, it was an obstruction. There should have been an indirect free kick, but it definitely wasn't a penalty. But, Vilau saved it anyway, so that's all right, I guess.
Yeah, for a team that's kind of top of the table, unbeaten, they definitely didn't outclass us or anything like that. I think that we looked quite equal to them, and we certainly had so many chances where we could have put 1 or 2 away. There was our one corner of the game, the keeper pretty much dropped it, and it was a goal-mouth scramble, and I don't know how we didn't score that. It was just flailing legs, everyone kicking each other, and somehow it didn't go into the back of the net, which, yeah, that I just feel like that explains our season. A goal mouth scramble, but doesn't go on the back of the net. And yeah, I think we gave away probably a pretty soft goal. I would not leave Holly McNamara with that much space on the penalty spot. They should have had someone on her and not give her the chance to get the ball or turn or do anything with it. But instead, there were two defenders stepped off her, and she basically just had so much time in the world to. I mean, it was a nice finish. It's kind of on the volley turn, but she shouldn't have had any time at all. To have no one marking, they should have had two people on her, but they just had no one on her. It makes zero sense. And that was probably a goal that didn't need to happen. But yeah, and I also agree with the penalty there. Mac Barry, I guess they just kind of were both. I mean, the ball was away, but Mac was still coming in, and she was looking for contact. She basically jumped into Mac, fell, and got the penalty for that. It's two soft penalties in a row is just a bit rough for us. But Villau saved it. It wasn't a great penalty from Holly McNamara. Maybe I don't know if it was before or after she got kicked in the head, but maybe things are a bit blurry for her. But yeah, it wasn't a great penalty, but Villau saved it and still kept us in, but I think we'd kind of run out of steam a little bit near the end, and we didn't really look as threatening near the end of the game. But yeah, overall, pretty good performance against Melbourne City. I think we've had two pretty close losses to them this season, and for a team that's top of the table undefeated, I think that bodes well for our skill, but unfortunately it doesn't reflect where we are in the table.
One thing which I thought we sort of got to mention is taking Jaber off at half time to stop her getting sent off after a yellow card, which was unnecessary, should we say. I mean, again, love her passion. Speckmauer was being a pain in the arse, so she gave her a push, but Jaber's strong. So when she gave them a push, they stay pushed, and Speckmauer on the ground, and she's always going to get booked for it. She did the same against Sydney, and then she got sent off, and I think Temple had no choice but to take her off at half time. I think otherwise he probably would have taken Kelly off, put Meekin on for the attacking, skill that she has there, but he would have kept Jaber on because she's a better defender than Kelly. But instead, he had to take Jaber off, keep Kelly on, and that's something I think Jaber's got to sort of work on. Again, keep the passion, maybe not the big pushes in the chest to get people rolling over the sideline.
I mean, to be fair, it was a flop from Snakemeyer. It was absolutely an embarrassing flop. And actually, in the first match for this, Snakemeyer flopped as well. And then that was the one where T decided to recreate the flop just for the refs' benefit and got a yellow card there. Yeah, it's so frustrating. I love T, but those stupid, needless yellows have cost us dearly because she is one of our best defenders. She really is. And when she drops out of the back line, then, we have inferior overall choices like having to put Maya back there, for example, who would be much better off further up the pitch. So those are really costly, and I don't know what needs to happen for someone to, because she does it at NPL as well. I've seen it happen. I've sat there and watched her do it at the NPL level, and it's just got to stop. It's just so silly. It's got to stop, and it's really costing us. Good old T. But yeah, Mariana definitely, I was glad that she got one as well because she was like standing in front of T trying to take the throw. So I was glad. But I do kind of wonder whether teams know that she's liable for a silly yellow card, and when they, because actually, when she was sent off from in the Sydney game, that first card where the keeper had, the bench keeper had not let her have the ball back, she did sort of sound like it was intentional, that they were trying to rile her up. And so I wonder whether that is part of it, is that other teams have realised that it's quite easy to get a silly yellow out of her, and being a back, teams don't really want to keep one of their defenders with a yellow card for too much of the game.
Yeah, it's actually quite good game management from Speckmeier and whoever else is doing it. Like, I know it's sometimes can, be a bit of a stain on the game. But I also kind of think it's funny. Like, if I was in the same boat, if my team was up, I would do everything I can to rile up the other team. And I do it all the time. You get in their head and you make them, get silly fouls, silly yellows, make mistakes. And it's part of the game. It's the mental game as well. And I think, especially as a defender, you need to be better than that at not reacting, because I think every striker you're going to come across will probably have something to say to you in your ear, will do something to annoy you, and you just have to just be the bigger person, because you're the one who's more likely to get sent off, because you're the one who's coming in for tackles and much more. A striker can lay off you later on in the game, but yeah, you have to be better than that, and you have to control yourself. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself with a big hefty fine of cards.
Well, so there's no dub matches this coming weekend. It is the international break. The Ferns will be playing Taiwan, April 5th, behind closed doors, April 8th, 10:30 p.m. New Zealand time. So our next game is going to be Canberra away, Sunday, April 13th, 5 p.m. New Zealand time, 3 p.m. local time. The little corner of yellow will be there. That'll be really exciting. How are we feeling about that? And before I forget, should we have also been wearing the charity kit for the women's game, considering we didn't have a third kit, like a pride kit for the women this season? So Canberra and kit.
I was really surprised we weren't wearing the charity kit. I hadn't read anything about why we weren't. It just seems obvious the men are wearing it the day before, then the women wear it, and then that's more kits to auction off for charity. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything from the club about why they didn't. It seems a bit strange to me. Look, I think we're more than, as Erin said earlier, we can hold our own against anybody in this league, and we have done all the way through. But what we can't seem to do is score the goals that get those points. And it's another must-win game. We still have a small chance to make the 6, but it means winning both the games. So we have to win Canberra. If we don't, then we're definitely out of it. Are we capable of winning it? Yes. Are we going to? I don't know. This team and its lack of putting chances away has probably broken my faith a little bit. Certainly, in the game just gone, we were playing really well, but I just didn't really have any faith we were going to score a goal. And, I'm sort of at that point of saying, well, we'll probably outplay Canberra. We'll probably have some chances. Are we going to score enough goals to beat them? Yeah, I don't really know. So, yeah, not too confident. And Canberra away from home, season's pretty much gone. If Temple can rock them up and get them going, then potentially, we'll play well enough to play better and create enough chances. But I'm just not confident we're going to score the goals, so I don't think we can get anything out of it.
Yeah, Canberra have seemed to be kind of getting away with murder a lot this season. They've won games where they've had one shot and like 20% possession, and they just find random ways to win games where they really shouldn't have. But yeah, I think the very slim chance we have of making finals is we have to win both of our games. And if we win both of our games, it should be enough to bounce us over Canberra and bounce us over the Raw, because the Raw still have to come across Melbourne Victory. And I don't think that the Raw will be able to beat them because their backline is awful. So that's a story for another day. But yeah, I think that we should be able to beat them. I think it's been a while since we last played them, and I just remember us losing to some tinny goal, which has kind of been the case for a lot of our games at the early start of the season. And yeah, I think that we do have a chance of beating them, and I just hope that we can go out there and just, this is for our season. They have to go out there and just fight and win, because if we don't win, then we won't make finals. And it's actually now, but we were saying many weeks ago that it's do or die, but this is actually statistically, if we don't win, then we get eliminated. So hopefully we win. That would be fantastic. And then in terms of the charity kit, the men didn't wear the Pride shirts last year, and I think that it was communicated that next season the men will have the charity kit and the women won't. I don't know if that was actually communicated or I made that up, but yeah, the men didn't wear the Pride kit last year, and so I think that they alternate who gets the special kit each year.
I think the issue is that you can only have 3 kits. Each team can only have 3 kits in a season. And so last year when the women had the Pride kit, the men had a charity strip, I believe. So you can't... maybe they didn't. Are you sure? Okay. We might have to have a look at that. But anyway, part of the issue is that you can't have 4 kits for a team. But yeah, considering there was no alternate kit or Pride kit or charity kit for the women this season, it is a real pity that they couldn't just throw together. I know it costs money. It does cost money, right? Like it's not cheap to put out player match kits, only then to turn around and another organisation is selling them for charity. So there is a cost to the club. I don't know how much of that Paladin eats, but I imagine we eat quite a bit of that cost as a club as well. So there are reasons financially to maybe go on, maybe we don't do both teams, but it would have made sense. It would have been fantastic, especially 2 home games like that.
They could have done like the Pride numbers or something to, keep the same kit, but just put something on, change the numbers and the lettering on the back or something. I feel like that would still make it the same kit, but just something special, because I know that they did that for Adelaide vs Victory in their annual Pride round. They put the Pride numbers on the back for the women's team, not for the men's team. But so they could have done something to celebrate something else. I guess I get not having a whole new kit for the women's team when the club's already kind of struggling financially, but I don't know, maybe something special for both teams would be great.
I think the issue with the putting Pride numbers on is that you have to buy a whole new set of kits if you're just doing that for one round and you're not doing it for the whole season. So I don't know. I know that there are costs involved, and also a lot of work goes into making those, coming up with the designs of those kits. But yeah, I think it would have made sense if perhaps we had
just get the sellotape out, just tape some numbers on.
You know what? We could do the famous Brisbane Raw kit falling off, and then also when Sydney played, I think Abby Lemon's kit was half falling apart. Someone's was. It might have been Talon Henniker. I don't know. It is a pity that there wasn't a commitment to do that. Shall we chat All Whites? Okay. What a window. So we played Fiji in the semi-final in Wellington. Danny, I believe you went to that. A 7-0 win, 3 goals to Chris Wood, Singh, Bindon, Payne, and Costa. And then in Auckland, which Erin went to, we beat New Caledonia 3-0, goals to Boxall, Costa, and Just. Tammy Payne, what a window. 1 goal and 4 assists across those 2 games. He made the EAFC Team of the Week and everything, so he was absolutely fantastic. We have qualified for our 3rd ever Men's World Cup. How were the games? Danny, you were at the first one?
No, I wasn't. I was here in Sydney. I think Alex went to the
Sorry.
game.
Oh, I've gotten confused.
Yeah. I would have liked to have gone to the game. I certainly was monitoring flight prices because it would have been a great weekend of football, Wellington and Auckland, but I didn't. So I watched it on TV. And yeah, look, we won 7-0. So that's all good, right? So, yeah, we qualified for World Cup. It's brilliant. So good weekend for New Zealand football. I mean, in terms of performances, again, it's always really hard to say when you're up against, island teams. I thought we were pretty clinical against Fiji. We scored the goals we should have scored. Defence didn't have anything to do. Everyone was quite good. Chris Wood got his hat-trick, etc., etc. Against New Caledonia, it seemed a bit tougher. They were a much better side. You could see that when they played against Tahiti in the in their semi-final. They were a better side. They defended better, deep like Fiji, but they were just better at getting to the ball and just cutting it out. And we seemed to be playing further up the pitch, which I thought didn't actually work very well for us. So Sarpreet Singh was playing really quite high up, which I think negated all the fact that when he's got the ball in space, he can just play anyone in anywhere. He was getting the ball sort of on the edge of the area, and then, okay, I've got 4 New Caledonians to try and go around with no space there. So I didn't think it worked very well. And we were better once Chris Wood came off injured. And it was like, okay, now we can't just leap it to Chris Wood. We've now got to start playing from back. And we just, then our class seemed to come out and we got the goals. So, yeah, excellent performance. Great result. Off to another World Cup. And, yeah, New Caledonia still have a chance of getting there. And I would love to see New Caledonia get to the World Cup. How good would that be? I mean, it could be pretty tough for them, but it'd be nice if they did.
The Fiji game was pretty clinical, I think. It was just some very nice football, and I guess we just had more time on the ball to play with it, and 7-0, pretty decent result. And then we came to that New Caledonia game, and I just think that first half was atrocious. It was a very, very difficult watch in the stands. It just kind of looked like they were trying to cross it in and hit Chris Wood's head as their tactic. Not try to do anything else except for get it to Chris Wood to score. And he wasn't scoring. And then suddenly it was kind of panic mode. It's like, oh shit, like we're not scoring. What do we do? I think there was actual talk amongst me and my friends, like, are we actually going to go to penalties this game? Because that would be nerve-wracking. But yeah, then Chris Wood unfortunately gets injured, but comes off and the dynamic shifts a lot. And then our first goal comes, and I think from then on we were pretty solidly in the game, putting away 2 more, and going to the World Cup. But it was a bit shaky at the start there. It's a little bit nervous that they were gonna sneak a sneaky one in, and we were going to be trying to fight back from a 1-0 deficit for the whole game. They had some pretty athletic players. There was one guy, I think he did about 4 bicycle kicks in the space of 10 minutes, and he was a defender. They were defending by doing bicycle kicks. So very entertaining game at the end, but yeah, nervous watch, and hopefully they kind of, when they go to the World Cup, start their games a bit better than how they did against New Caledonia.
I think one of the things that New Caledonia had that maybe isn't happening with some of the other nations like Fiji is I think almost all of their team or most of their team actually play professionally in France, because I believe they're all French citizens, right? Because it's a French territory. So I'm assuming they all have French passports so that they don't need visas to play there. Either way, my understanding is most of them play there. I'm assuming not all of them play in Liga, but obviously they are playing professionally even if they don't play together that often, and that really showed. I think we were, I won't say night and day, but the difference when Chris Wood came off and we changed the way we played was enormous. And I think we played better without him because, and this was the case, I think, for the next with Zavada last season, is when you've got a big man up top who's capable of scoring goals, that is your route to goal. You lump them into the big guy up top and hopefully he'll score the goals. And once we took Chris Wood off, because the thing is, it's easy to defend against that. You just put 2 players on that guy, and then he's 2 players, 3 players. What is he going to do? He's not going to get to the ball. It's too easy to defend against that. You have to have a mix. And so we played much better, I think, without him, because all of a sudden we had to force ourselves with a bit of variety. And Costa getting in there with, I believe it was a nice little chip, his one. So when does the tournament start next year? I'm assuming it's like July?
June, July.
July.
So it's because it's a bigger World Cup, it's a little bit longer. Normally it's like mid-June to mid-July. I think it's going to start possibly about 5 or 6 days earlier because there's that many more teams. What I wanted to sort of mention, this is the first time we've had a guaranteed entry into a World Cup, as in Oceania winners. And to me, it's a little bit, it's it sounds begrudging, really, curmudgeon-like, because, but when we qualified against Bahrain, it was something really special. And then the other Confederation playoffs against Mexico and Peru were just amazing events. I went to both those games, and they were just the biggest event. And although we didn't make it, the possibility was there. And if we had done it, it would have been such an achievement. Whereas this one, we knew we were going to the World Cup, right? Okay, it was just mathematically we had to put the results in there, but we were very unlikely to lose at home to an island side. And with the crowd combined was, I think, about 20,000 in Wellington, about 25 in Auckland, something like that. So 45,000 people. Okay, that's pretty good. It's similar-ish to what we would have got for a Confederation playoff in Wellington or in Auckland. So I guess the money's sort of there for New Zealand. But I just wonder in years going forward, as we qualify this year, and we're going to probably qualify for the next one and for the next one, if that interest is going to die off, and it's just going to be like the Oceania Nations Cup where we win that every time. And people are going to go, yeah, well, let's just wait to the World Cup and we won't go along. I just wonder if this excitement of qualifying for the World Cup is going to die off, and it just won't be as big an event as it used to be.
So White Noise made a lot of effort, at least I saw it on social media, and they were doing marches and things like that. It is hard to attract people to a game where the result feels like it's a given, even though there's so much at stake and you never know what's going to happen. I heard Wellingtonians or Next fans saying that the crowd in Wellington was more vocal. I don't know if that's the case. Sometimes that's a matter of acoustics in the stadium, but how did it feel in terms of active support within the stadium at Eden Park?
It looked good. The whole section was full. They had the flags, they had some confetti and everything, but just the sound at Eden Park is horrible. I wasn't in that section. I was a few sections over, and you can't make out like what anyone is really saying. They were making noise, but it just all goes up out the roof. You don't really hear much else around the stadium. I think kind of the only times where I've heard it go off at Eden Park has been the opening game of the Women's World Cup, the Hannah Wilkinson goal, and then the final of the Women's Rugby World Cup when we went for a lineup and we won it, and that basically won the World Cup final for us. And so those have been two moments at Eden Park where the sound has been incredible in the stadium. But if it's not completely full with a very vocal crowd, it doesn't really sound like much. But so there was, I saw a lot of talk that, Bahrain was better, blah, 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 blah. But also this was a Monday night. This was a 7 p.m. on a Monday night versus Bahrain, which I think was a Saturday night as well, which that's automatically going to be different. Getting into the city on a Monday night is just a bit of a pain for a game where we might, be guaranteed to win, basically. It's, of course, you're not going to have that big of a crowd compared to what you would have had back then, but I think it was still good. They still came out. They were still singing almost the whole time, standing the whole time, making a lot of noise, and so it was pretty good at the stadium. Probably didn't sound that great in the broadcast, but
I do hope in terms of having Jaffa FC in the A-Leagues now, there will be a growth of people who get into active support. And so there's that sense if you go and you don't just sit there and cheer when something big happens, but you show up and there's noise and there's chanting and there's colour. So hopefully that grows that level of active support that we can have. And it would be nice to see that for the Ferns as well, because that has been that's been lacking. So hopefully good things to come, and I hope we get a good crowd out to the World Cup. For those who can afford it, I don't think it's going to be on my list of things I'm likely to get to, although if I'm going to go, it's probably this time and not whatever disgusting oil money country it is. I believe it's still not illegal to be a queer person in the US yet. But anyway, it will be a massive event. Any final thoughts on anything before we knock off?
You can go to the World Cup and not go to the States. You can go to Mexico. You can go to Canada.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Don't
But
have to go to America to go to the World Cup.
Not many of the games are in those countries, though.
Something like 13 in Mexico, about 13 in Canada. So there's a few.
There's a few. It might depend on where we wind up.
Well, it could be the World Cup afterwards where it's in 50 different countries. And they're putting one in Argentina, one in Uruguay, and in Spain and Portugal and everywhere. So that could be the one to go to.
Either way, hopefully the white noise do get a good turnout and we do make plenty of noise and show that we're not all just, rugby fans alone, but we support the All Whites and the Ferns. We will see you next week. Matua.